My best friend spilled wine on my wife by accident during our wedding. Now my wife is demanding I cut contact or this marriage won't last. I, 33M, met my best friend, Ali, 31F, through a mutual friend in 2012 during a pub quiz at university. I was quite attracted to her and actually told her so at the end of the evening, but she told me she had a boyfriend, even though she was flattered all the same. Fast forward 3 years later, I met Eliza, 32F, at the Edinburgh Fringe, and we just clicked immediately. Politics, music, cinema, whatever the subject approached, there was a spark that I had never felt with anyone else, like she just made sense with me. Her personality was so vivid. It's hard to describe, but I'll try. On first impression, she was so knowledgeable and enthusiastic. I was taken aback by her intensity. From that point onwards, we were inseparable, and I was absolutely certain of our future together long before we got engaged. Enter Ailey again. I started a new job at an advertising firm with a position in web design, and she was one of the only people I knew. At first, it was a little awkward given our history, especially considering that she was now married to the boyfriend she was dating back then, but there was no one else I knew at the firm, and we both had partners at this point, so it couldn't hurt to be friends, right? And to be honest, I'm glad because I feel like our chemistry as friends superseded any potential we might have had as a couple. She's clever and has a bit of a cheeky personality. I'm quite dry and sarcastic myself, so I reckon we have a pretty fun dynamic. Eliza doesn't seem to feel that way though. Sometimes when it's been the three of us, she has expressed a feeling of being left out or that Ailey has been making fun of her. I don't see it though, it's just our dynamic, but there have been a couple of nights where Eliza's been in tears because of something that Ailey has said. One time Eliza got out of her seat, and Ailey sat down where she was sitting to show me a video on YouTube. When Eliza came back in, she saw Ailey leaning next to me and was upset for the rest of the night. Sometimes there have been times when Ailey has said something that Eliza has interpreted as overly flirtatious, like when I said I missed swimming because I felt out of shape, and Ailey said, "The two of us should go together," with a playful punch. Eliza didn't say anything at the time, but her discomfort was visible. Things really came to a head, though, on our wedding, and I think the stress of it really got to Eliza. During the reception, Ailey bumped into her, and red wine spilled all over her dress. She was bawling the entire evening. We're now on our honeymoon, and Eliza has said she hopes for a fresh start, but she feels like Ailey might have spilled her wine on purpose. She's suggesting that I go no contact with her, and if I'm honest, I'm not so sure I want to. Where do I go from here? Relevant comments. The number of times I've bumped into someone and spilled my drink on them is exactly once in my entire life, and I was an out-of-my-mind hammered teenager. You are either astoundingly naive, or Ali is somehow the unluckiest woman in the world to accidentally spill her red wine on the bride on her wedding day. I think you know which one is more likely. Your wife won't be staying your wife for much longer unless you start actually listening to her and stop dismissing all of her fears as baseless insecurities. Ailey was getting a drink from the bar. Eliza had taken off part of her gown for dining and dancing purposes and was leaving our bedroom to return to our table. They bumped into each other, and Eliza had a huge red stain over her dress. Ailey made an offhand joke and fled, and Eliza ran up to me in bits and pieces. It sounded really bad when Eliza told me, and I went to Ailey and asked her what the hell she was up to. Ailey was so mortified and told me she wanted to sink into a pit. She's dyspraxic and has struggled with falling at impromptu moments. I've actually witnessed it happening before. There was a meeting at work, and she got our colleagues coffee, and the moment she came in, she tripped and fell, coffee flying everywhere. It really sounds like you're putting your friend first. No wonder your wife is unhappy. She comes back in tears from hanging out, and you still invite Ailey to the wedding? What was that conversation like? She got really upset one time during banter because Ailey and I like to roast each other regularly, and Ailey roasted her a little too hard, I guess. We were singling out things to insult each other on, and the subject went to Eliza, and she mentioned that she had webbed feet. Since then, Ailey's called her leapfrog. When I say it, Eliza takes it in good stride, but when Ailey says it, it's this massive problem. I don't get it. Eliza has suggested that Ailey's being serious when she says it, as opposed to when I do, but she roasts me the same way too. Update 1. You know, I posted here recently looking for guidance on how to deal with my wife's anxiety and hurt revolving around my friend, and it seems like I got read the riot act, probably rightly so. I have been completely inconsiderate of Eliza's feelings and how she feels about these roastings, and you alerted me to the possibility that Ailey is doing this just to be a little crap. I sat down with Eliza, and we had an in-depth conversation about the wedding incident, and I got her to describe the event step by step in her own words. I was leaving the lobby into the dining venue, and Ailey was a little tipsy at this point and already stumbling from the bar. She was initially walking slower but seemed to speed up when she saw me. We collided into each other, and she pulled an ashamed face and made a joke about me looking like Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl before scurrying away. She seemed embarrassed in the moment, but she didn't apologize to me. I heard from other people that she was appalled about what happened, but I never heard anything from her directly. It just paints a picture of habitual microaggressions from her that have festered into this ugly anxiety whenever she's around. I pretty much predict that whenever I'm in her vicinity, there will be weird behavior or uncomfortable comments, and I don't want to continue being in a situation where my husband brings someone into my home who resents me simply for existing. That was a real gut punch to me. Personally, I always felt like it was just insecurity about me fancying Ailey for 10 minutes years ago, but Eliza is really torn up about this. She said that the honeymoon has been miserable because the memory has been swirling around in her mind, and she feels like I'm going to downplay or dismiss it. No one should feel like they can't just be themselves, especially not at home. I didn't realize what an awful person I'd been, and I apologized profusely to Eliza and decided to phone up Ailey to confront her about the wedding incident. So I did, and it didn't go well. Basically, I told her that Eliza was really hurt by the wedding dress incident, that she had been hurt by her behavior for a long time, and that if she can't bring herself to apologize to Eliza's face, at least she should contribute towards getting the stain removed. If she couldn't bring herself to even do that, then our friendship had to stop. To say that Ailey was taken aback would be an understatement. She was completely blindsided, asking what was wrong with their interactions that made me want to go to such extremes. I mentioned the leapfrog comment, and she went, "But even you call her that," stating that Eliza called her Garfield because of her weight and bright orange hair. When I mentioned that she ran towards Eliza and didn't apologize for spilling wine on her, she got really upset and started shouting that she wasn't running at her to hurl wine at her dress, she was running from her because she didn't want to talk at that moment. She feels like Eliza hates her, and she doesn't know how to go about it. She started pointing out times when Eliza had been funny towards her, and I basically said, "Right, but this isn't about when Eliza has hurt you, this is about when you've hurt Eliza, and it's got so bad that it needs to be talked about." She started laughing, and it was really uncomfortable. I know she does this when she's anxious about something. Eliza asked me if things were okay from the other room, and Ailey demanded if this was a setup. When I tried to explain myself, she hung up. Her husband, Ewan, even phoned me, insisting that he would pay for the damage if it is less stressful for me. I told Ewan that I appreciated that, but I needed to know where Ailey stood regarding what I just said. Ewan told me that Ailey makes jokes whenever she's anxious or uncomfortable and that they've wrote about it in the past, but the wedding dress incident is a major issue, and he wants to smooth things over as much as I do. So he and Ailey will pay towards dry cleaning, while the condolences hamper is sent to Eliza. Eliza was relieved that Ewan was so understanding, but she wasn't thrilled about Ailey's reaction. She basically said that the Garfield comment was always about her hair and never about her weight, and that Ailey was deliberately trying to make it seem like the bad behavior went both ways. I don't think it has gone both ways either, because I've never noticed Eliza roasting Ailey in any real way. Eliza has suggested we try marriage counseling, and I was a bit shocked at first because we've only been married a month, lol. But I decided maybe that's the way forward, because if Eliza reckons that we need counseling for it, then it's clearly a problem. So yeah, Eliza and I are going to try marriage counseling, and my future with Ailey is uncertain.